Justin in Indiana.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Just fine.
Pretty good.
Awesome. I am very, very excited to call the show. I am an atheist as well. And I just wanted to say briefly that watching you guys, I discovered you on YouTube when I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and it really helped me get through it, so thank you.
I'm glad you didn't develop some kind of aversion to it.
Yeah, that's the best praise I think we could have possibly gotten. Yes, you helped me recover from my wisdom teeth surgery.
Right.
It's a miracle, right? We had the healing touch.
Right. So thank you guys a whole lot. My main question for you guys is, Steven Pinker recently wrote an article in the New Republic magazine about science is not the enemy. And he talks about how people have been constantly attacking the philosophy of positivism. And I just wanted to know, because positivism is essentially the philosophy that anything that we can sort of discern from the natural world, we can discern through the social world as well. And I wanted to know what you guys thought. Do you think that positivism is a natural sort of corollary of atheism, or do you think that the anti-positivist movement, which is really pervasive in a lot of political circles with, like Jackson Lears, who writes for Nature magazine, who critiqued Sam Harris's work, do you guys think that positivism is a logical corollary of atheism, or do you think that anti-positivism could also be part of atheism? And if so, how would you be able to discern that? Hopefully, I wasn't confusing you guys.
I don't know about Martin, but I think this question is above my pay grade. I'd have to sit down and read stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read Pinker's article, so maybe I should. Maybe you could email us the link to that at the TV show address.
Absolutely, sure.
I don't know if this is specifically what you're talking about, but there has been a great deal of debate within movement atheism recently about what should movement atheism take an interest in. Okay. And there is a contingent of us who believe, for example, that such things as social justice is something that is necessary for atheists to get behind.
Right. So basically, addressing issues of social,
for example, inequality,
racism,
homophobia,
sexism,
bigotry, misogyny, things like that. Our take on it is that if we are going to be skeptics about institutions and attitudes that institutions have handed us down from time immemorial, and if we're going to look at these things and say these aren't good ideas, then we should do that across the board. And particularly as atheists, if we are going to, for example, reject organized religion, and if we are going to reject some of the mores that have been imposed on society by that religion, for example, all these anti-gay attitudes, anti-marriage equality, that sort of thing. People like Brian Fisher and Fred Phelps and all of the really, really outspoken homophobic, militant anti-gay people out there. They're all coming from a fundamentalist religious perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we are going to reject the religion, then we also have to look skeptically at the moral ideas and precepts that those guys are trying to hand us based on their religion and saying, yeah, no, it's wrong to repress certain groups of people that you don't like. It's wrong to deny certain groups of people's basic civil rights. And so as atheists, we should maybe be for those things.
Right. And also, if atheism is going to be successful as a movement, effectively, that brings in as many people as possible who are learning to reject religion, then it makes sense to look at kind of principles that would be welcoming to as many groups of people as possible.
Yeah, and those things can bring all those folks into our wheelhouse. And sure, just because just being an atheist doesn't, I think, necessarily lead to any other kinds of social or philosophical or political attitudes. You can not believe in any invisible magic men in the sky, and be the most conservative fellow out there. You can, so the one thing doesn't, I think, necessarily lead to another, but I think that there is a good case to make for there being a natural progression from rejecting religion and being atheist to, saying that. But now, if what we are promoting is a secular world, then we need to have a really nice secular world for all of us to live in,
or at least an idea of what a nice secular world would look like.
And then we should pursue that. So
let me just interject and say that I agree with you guys completely. And I think the thing that I guess my point is that primarily, like, the anti-positivists would argue exactly against what you were saying. Essentially, that they would argue that there's no good discernible way that we can gain evidence of the social world. Everything is subjective, everything is relative, and so there's no bothering in dealing with issues in a way that's sort of scientific.
I think I talked to philosopher Dan Finke a couple of months ago, and I think what he would say about this, and I tend to be on his side for the most part, is that the health of the health of a society isn't an exact science, but then neither is the health of your body. And so if a doctor tells you, you really should lay down the Twinkies and get some exercise, you could say to him, well, there's no absolute guarantee that me not stuffing my face with Twinkies will be good for my health. And I know this guy who lived to be 103, and he loved Twinkies. But there is such a thing as measuring the health of a person and people being more or less healthy, and certain behaviors correlating with a person who's in better shape. And I think in the same sense, when we deal with secular ethics, we're trying to figure out the kinds of ways that a society can behave that are most just and work the best to promote the health of its citizens. And so I think that if that's what anti-positivists, if anti-positivists think that it doesn't matter what you do, as far as as far as whether there's a right and a wrong thing to do, I'm with the positivists in this case.
And I guess that's why part of our slogan is that we promote positive atheism. I think that's what we really mean about it.
And that was essentially my point. I think the thing that's important to, I wanted to call about was this idea that anti-positivists tend to always think that people who promote science and reason and critical thinking, that they're always the ones that are dogmatic. And that is always the thing they always hit on. And I'm like, if anybody's dogmatic, it's the irrationalist, it's the non-logical, it's the religionist, essentially.
Well, I hesitate to lump people with religion just as a blanket way of insulting them.
Well, I don't think that's what he meant. I think that's just, people are resistant to moving out of their comfort zone. Religion is one thing that gives people a comfort zone, and one of the ways in which they get defensive when you try to persuade them of other ideas is by, you're a militant new atheist.
I've heard that.
No, I'm just trying to tell you what, and people, and of course that's a thing they project, right? The angry ones are the ones who are always telling you how angry you are.
If people ask me, why do you support separation of church and state? I have an answer. I have specific examples of ways that that the state interfering with church and vice versa lead to social results that we don't like. And I have specific anecdotes about when that happened and what the bad result was, and kind of statistical evidence of different amounts of involvement in different countries and throughout history. I think that there are things that we can learn from other countries and other time periods that really do inform our beliefs and don't just make what we should do ethically kind of a random crapshoot like these guys seem to be saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good point, because I think the bigger problem is that you have a lot of people who, the moment a new scientific explanation is understood, or somebody writes an article defending science, there always tends to be someone who comes out of the woodwork, if you will, who can either be religious or not, and just says, oh, you're being dogmatic, oh, you're being this. And it just seems absurd to say that someone's being dogmatic when they're being as critical as they can.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, you see that, that's a very common thing right now, in it's a very worrying thing in our culture today, where you have the anti-vaccination crowd, you've got
global warming deniers.
That crowd too. Yeah, there's always some sort of denialist who comes along because they see new information as a threat to a status quo that gives them comfort. And at least they think gives them comfort, or they just and that's kind of, it's conservatism. If conservatism is, let's keep things the way they are, let's not change, let's not have these great societal sea changes that upend the thing that gives me the nice privileged position I live in. So there's always going to be that kind of resistance. So we're seeing a lot more of it though lately, and it is kind of worrying.
Yeah,
Right.
I wonder, why do you guys think that it's sometimes in academic circles, or that sometimes in like the mainstream press, like the New Republic published Lear's reply to Pinker, and Lear basically just said that Pinker was cherry picking about his position on positivism, because he basically argued that positivism led to eugenics and sort of.
Well, I mean, until I read his article, I won't be able to address a specific
Sorry
thing
about
he
that,
said.
yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap up.
Yeah, we got 15 minutes and a bunch more people in line, but I appreciate your questions were really cool. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks
Awesome.
for
Thank you
calling.
very much. You guys
So-
have a good night.
Thank
you.
you, and don't forget to email us that link.